and productivity in the 21st century. So let us welcome our management consultant, businessman, and talk show host, Mr. Lester Cox.
All right, before we get started, can we all just stand for one quick moment, please? I want to thank the minister for having me here, and Leslie Roach and all the executives here, Eloise Fernanda. Thank you guys for inviting me. Well, when groups just get together, when senior leaders and managers get together, it's important for us to think about a couple of things. And what I want you to think about this morning this afternoon is that together, all of us, we are smarter than any one individual. We can outwork anyone as a group in this room. So what I want us to acknowledge right now is I want you to give your neighbor a high five. And see, I can see one thing, but y'all want to catch it. Y'all ever notice winning teams always touching each other, losing teams get away from me? I can tell some of you guys are like a winning team already. But listen to the instruction. I want you to give your neighbor a high five. The leaders have to really listen, because leadership really happens between the space of where we are and where we want to go. And so leaders really have to pay attention, especially in this 21st century. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to give your neighbor a high five and tell them this for me. Tell them whatever you're going after is yours. Whatever you're going after is Now, stay with me now. I don't have a lot of time. You gotta stay with me. Now, I really want you to think about what you're going after. I really want you to think about it, because everybody in this room is going after something. Some of you going after getting richer. Some of you going after promotions. Some of you ladies in this room going after getting married. God help you all. But everybody going after something. Am I right about that? Yes. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. And I want you to get a picture of whatever you're going after. Because really, everything boils down to vision. And you've got to become the kind of person who can make your vision happen. So I want you to get a vision of what you want in your mind. And when you get that vision, I want you to just click for me. Come on. Think about what you're going after. When you get that vision, just click for me. And then say, yeah. All right. Now, this time when you do it, when you give them, I want you to give them another high five. Now, this time when you do it, when we touch, a spark is going to go off in the atmosphere. Christians call it touching the green, but really it's more powerful than that. When we touch now, a spark is going to go off, my spark is going to go off, and I don't have to know what she's going after, because it really doesn't matter. What really matters is what you're going after, what you're committed to. So let's try it one more time. This time now with vision. Let's go. Whatever you're going after is yours. Now, if you don't have what you're going after, you're going to have to change, right? Am I right about that? Yes. You can't get what you want if you insist on staying like how you are. So a critical point of leadership is always about change. If you're not changing something, you're not needed. So I want you to shake the next person out and tell them hello and goodbye, because I'm changing.
Hello and goodbye, I'm changing.
As you take your seat,
again, and I'm changing.
I want you to touch yourself and say, I am the one. Now look at people touching. It's amazing when you ask people to touch themselves, they always touch you. I don't understand why. Come on, you can be seated. Thank you. This must be you know. He interrupted my talk already.
And I sure everybody to go forward you have to have objective. Something so if you don't have objective, then you have to go around and tell them. And not everybody has objective. Okay? And the next thing that's very important when you have leadership is commitment. You can have commitment. You can have commitment.
You got it. All right. All right. So, I love talking to Bahamians because, and people in this environment, because we are some of the most unique people in the world, and sometimes we don't really think about that. Bahamians are the only people who I know with unique words, the joke, yuck, my boy. We got words like bongi. I was in Canada at a squash tournament, and I saw this beautiful lady walk past me, and she had a nice shape, and I said, boy, she got a nice bongi on her. And then this Canadian guy asked me, he said, what's bongi? Right? But really, we got unique words and we got unique gestures Bahamians will do stuff like we won't know. Bahamians are the only people who point to them out, they go, right? I don't know any other people who do that. Or they bite their lips. So we are unique in many ways. We've got so many unique words. One of the words that I like in the Bahamas that we use is this word called swing. Any of y'all familiar with the word swing?
Yeah.
Right? And we use it in a unique way. How many of you ever get swing before? Right? Now, let me tell you a secret about getting swing. Those of you who ain't get swing before, you're getting swing right now.
Right now.
Because you never know you're getting swing when you're getting swing. I remember the first time I got swing, man, really swing. I was the #1 squash player in my country. And I thought I was special. I used to go walking around like I had it going on. And my country sent me to Jamaica to play in this tournament. And there I encountered the Jamaican #1, his name was Wayne Barrett. This guy puts a beating on me. It wasn't even embarrassing, it was like a crushing. You know how you crush a piece of paper? It was like, imagine crushing a piece of paper. It was like a crushing. And when you get beaten that as a teenager, one of three things happen to you. You either retire, you accept it, because you know, some of us believe some people are just better than us and that's just what it is. You just accept where you are. It's like the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Dolphins just accept. The Patriots will win that division. That's as simple as that. But the third thing you can do is you can decide to refire. And so I was too young to retire. I was too stupid to accept it. So I decided to refire. And I tell you something. I remember shaking the guy's hand. Let me shake my hand. Any of you ever was talking to somebody, saying something out of your mouth, thinking something else in your mind? Yeah. So I'm shaking this guy's hand. I'm telling him how great he is, right? But I'm thinking, I'll be back. I'm thinking, if I get better, I think I can beat you. And that spark in my mind, I don't know where it came from, because when a guy crushes you, like, why would you believe you could beat him? When a guy takes you down like that, why would you ever believe you can beat him? And he said, I want you to think about it for a moment, because us leaders, we are sometimes required to do the impossible. Because really a huge part of leadership is really doing things that other people think you cannot do. And so while I'm talking to him and I'm telling him how good he is, something is going on in the back of my mind that's causing me to think about getting better. And you see, before I went to Jamaica to play, this guy named Eddie Bostic, he came up to me, I was playing in a tournament, he looked at me, he says, Lester, you're pretty good for Bahamian. He says, I can help you. I looked at him, not knowing what I know now. I said, can you beat me? He said, no. I said, can any of your students beat me? He said, no. I said, then bye-bye. But when I got back to Nassau, you see, because a person don't have to know, a coach don't have to know what you know to help you know. He just needs to see something that you can't see. And sometimes we in these professional environments, we got degrees and we got this and we got that. Our customers can help us in ways we couldn't even imagine if we are open to it. And so when I got back to Nassau, man, I couldn't wait to call up Eddie Bostic. At the airport, I called him up and said, Eddie, I had a bad experience in Jamaica. He said, I know. I said, can you help me? He says, yes, Lester, I can help you. He says, meet me to the squash club, 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Now, come on, my business. You guys are 9 to 5 as you, right? 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, you're on your second dreaming. But I made it out to the sports court. Got on the court with him, he slammed the door, boom! And he asked me a question that changed my life. He said, Lester, what's the most important thing about the game of squash? And when he put the question, then I stopped him. I said, you gotta be young, you gotta be this. Then he said, no, I want to know what is D1. Everybody say 1. 1. He said, I want to know what is the D1 most important thing about the game of squash. And when he put the question like that, I had no answer. Because I never thought about squash like that. Nor had I ever thought about anything like that. What is D1? Everybody say 1. Right? What is the one most important thing about the thing that you're going after? Like, what's the most important thing about leadership? What's the most important thing about managing? What's the most important thing about leading an organization? What's the most important thing about money? I had no answers for any of those questions. Some of you don't want money. Like, what's the most important thing about that? Some of you in relationships, you all been in a relationship for years. And you want everybody in a relationship, they want to be happy. So what's the most important thing about a relationship? And I put it to you that a lot of us, we've never thought about it. You ask the average person, so what's the most important thing about a relationship? Some of them will say, love. I'm sure most guys will say that. Some people will say, not scheming, trust. And you will have all kind of different answers, because I have asked this question in a lot of different places. Wherever I've gone to speak, I always ask this question. You get all kind of interesting answers. Until eventually, the group will come around to this thought that the most important thing in a relationship is communication. And you know, you'll be absolutely wrong. Because if the most important thing about communications was, about a relationship with communications, then speakers like me and pastors, we'll have the best relationship. We'll talk people to death. What do you think? My wife will go in a perfectly normal store. The store is normal in every way. And she would buy clothing that she can't get into by herself. She would buy a dress with zips up on the back, a blouse with button up. She would do things that I can never understand. You'll never see a guy with pants that zip up from the back, zip up from the side. But I guess if you see that, then you know you got some issues. The point is, though, communication can never be the most important thing about a relationship. A guy named John Gray wrote a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And what he expounded on in the book was that men and women don't speak the same language. So if we don't speak the same language, how would there be communication? She'll tell me stuff like, it's the thought that counts. You ever heard that one before? It's the thought that counts. Yeah, it's the thought that counts until you think it. And then the minute you think it, you realize, no, it's not the thought that counts. It's how much I thought worked. And so, we go through our lives thinking things to be true, but they are just not. But for those of you in a relationship, you all who know the most important thing in a relationship, that's another similar. The point though is that in every area, we hardly ever get to that point where we figure out what's the most important thing. And when you don't put the most important thing down, you will always underperform in your area of responsibility. And this is why so many people in their area of responsibility, they underperform. Because they don't answer important questions. And you know what I find to be one of the most interesting things? When you put the thing down that's most important, you could begin to analyze it. And I admitted to Mr. Bossick, I didn't know what's the most important thing about squash. And he told me, he said, Lester, he said, the most important thing about squash is how you position yourself on the squash court, because squash is a game of positioning. Now think about that for a moment. I'm a young guy. Never knew what the most important thing about the game was. Not just the game I'm already the best in my country in. But then when I went to another country, I found out I was not that good. You see, competition always looks local, but competition is always global. It looks like we just doing stuff in the Bahamas, but let me tell you something. Everything that we do have a global component to it. And if you don't appreciate that, don't understand that, can't operate in the global context, you're going to underperform. And so when Eddie told me that, when he told me what the most important thing was, now I had a reference point and I realized what I was doing wrong. And let me tell you something, when he told me that, my squash game went up by 100% right away. The lesson was over why. I knew what I needed to do. And that's why I can tell you, it is so easy to be personally productive in the 21st century. That's the easiest thing in the world, to be personally productive. All you got to do is pay attention. It's a little bit more difficult to be productive as a group. And so when he told me that, when he said the most important thing was how I positioned myself on the squash court, I realized what I was trying to do. I was trying to beat people instead of positioning myself. And when you position yourself, everybody around you position. And after that lesson, man, it was like I was like in a twilight zone because I figured right then I was better. Because my perspective shifted. And oftentimes what all of us need to do, you know how when we're trying to solve problems at leadership, we always talk about stuff like the bottom line. But if you're trying to solve problems from the bottom line, you go always underperform. Because we've got to try to solve our problems from the top line. So the top line is how we see. The bottom line is what's happening. So if you're just trying to solve the problems from the bottom line, then you're going to underperform. And so Eddie and I, we were talking, but as far as I was concerned, the lesson was over. I had my understanding. Right then, I'd gotten 100% better. I live in the Coral Harbor area, and what I do from time to time, I can show you how easy it is to be, how easy